tower will fall.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. We've got a great, fresh show tonight featuring the band Storyhill. They're celebrating their 30th anniversary, and they've got a big festival coming up on August 25 through the 27th called Storyhill Fest at Clearwater Forest, and we'll find out where and how you can get tickets to that. But we're going to be talking about their beautiful career. They're very well acclaimed. They've charted on the Billboard charts and have several records out, and our childhood buddies from Bozeman, Montana. We're waiting for John Hermanson to check in, but in the meantime, we've got one of the players of the duo, one of the two, Chris Cunningham, with us tonight. Chris, how are you?
Hey, doing well. Thanks, Paul. How are you?
Very good. So tell us a little bit about, before we get into the history of Storyhill, tell us about the big festival coming up August 25th through the 27th.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's kind of a custom-designed festival on a lakeside sort of a church camp. It looks more like fine lodging, stone, everything. And it's our 15th, I want to say, time doing it. Not all in Minnesota. We started it in Bozeman 20 years ago. After my wife and I got married and had a couple of days of music and campfires and food and a couple hundred people, so it was born out of that idea. The festival is designed to celebrate original singer-songwriters, and so a lot of folk acts from around the country, acoustic singer-songwriters from all around, including Canada this year. And it's actually kind of an intimate experience. I mean, when we say big, it's big to us, but it's like it's not a Lollapalooza. It's a real intimate, interactive kind of community experience with activities and music, something for everyone of all ages. Kind of our plan.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Who are some of the performers, Chris?
Well, it varies every year. We look around and we select. Sometimes we do repeats. This year is pretty cool. People like, folks from the Minnesota area that might be known include like Humbird is coming. Heard of her? Kind of on the rise. And then Justin Ross was a native guitar fingerstyle guy from Minnesota, moved to Colorado, but he's coming back. Let's see, Vance Gilbert is one of the more seasoned, sort of standout old guard folk guys. Super entertaining and amazing songwriter. And then we have kind of a slew of variety. We have this guy Scott Cook from Canada. Apparently is very, very great storyteller and travels the world with him and his guitar. He's kind of a troubadour. Sarah Morris, back to the sort of Twin Cities area, will join us, and Molly Mayer. That's exciting.
We love Molly on the wall. We love Molly on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We've had her on, and I've known her for years, and she is not only a fabulous musician, but one of the coolest people you'll ever meet.
Yeah, for sure. I just got to meet her for my first time a month ago up at a place called Lutzen. Well, you all know where that is.
We all know where that is.
She's been hosted. Yeah, the Lute Song Festival, Lute Song. She invited us to headline that one. And so we got to party with her around the campfire ring afterwards. It was really nice. And she's super cool. And turns out we have a lot of friends in common, and her and my Storyhill partner, Johnny, go back. They have history, too. Apparently she's a really great luthier or guitar repair. She's like a lot of things, sounds like.
Well, she worked for years at Willie's American Guitars in St. Paul. She really knows the guitar stuff. I bumped into several people over the years that have bought guitars from Molly at Willie's. She knows her stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. Maybe she can join in on the guitar workshop, because we also do, besides music, at Storyhill Fest, there are daily workshops, songwriting workshops. You know, someone does a little yoga in the morning. There's stuff for kids, crafts and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I think Molly does yoga too, so she could do all of those workshops.
Oh, okay. Well,
She's
then, yeah,
busy,
we'll just keep her up all night and all day. Yeah.
Now, Chris Cunningham,
like a great fit.
Tell us how you bumped into John and when you guys started playing together.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of a long story, but it's basically we both grew up in the same town and we're in the same school system. And we started crossing paths back in middle school. But the sort of real connection started in, I want to say, 7th grade geography class or something.
Cool.
Where the teacher had asked the students to pair off, and we were the last two standing. You know, both too shy to pick a partner. So
funny.
Yeah. And so we worked on a project together in school, found that we had a lot in common, and, you know, the friendship included a lot of different things back then, sports and socializing and stuff like that, too. But the music, we both started doing choirs together, and one thing led to another. We started doing our own songwriting at these little public concerts or, you know, shows for parents and churches and stuff, and quickly got feedback from the community that, you know, there was something kind of special about our harmonizing and just our, you know, duo-ship. So it was born pretty young. We didn't expect to make a career out of it, but we did a recording to celebrate, you know, our high school graduation, and back on cassette, and all the cassettes were sold out.
Cool.
And so there was like the whole, like, okay, what do we do now? Reordering process, and yeah, it just kind of grew from there.
Couple of questions, Chris Cunningham. What was the name of your geography teacher? Let's give him or her a shout out.
Well, I know who it wasn't, but I can't remember who it was. That's going back so far. I'm in my 50s now, so that must have been the mid-'80s.
I'm older than you, and I remember Ted Jeske was my 7th grade geography teacher, but I digress. What kind of cover songs were you playing back then?
Oh, wow, yeah. We had to play covers, right, because we didn't have a lot of original at the time. But, yeah, it was everything from songwriters from the 70s that everyone would know, John Denver and Jim Croce, Joni Mitchell, that kind of stuff, Neil Young. And then we also were really into lots of different music, so things like bands like REM we would cover once in a while, U2, whatever was fun to play. Yeah. But we didn't do a lot of covers because it was more satisfying for us to see what we could create on our own and if it would, you know, go over well.
What was the very first song you guys wrote together?
I remember a couple. One of them was called Broken is the Word. And back then I was on piano, and Johnny had picked up the guitar, which he would later, you know, persuade me to do because I think his argument was they're a lot lighter and easier to carry than pianos.
Well, he was correct.
And we played for this candlelight concert where the parents of all the choir kids would come in and listen to their student kids sing like Seven Bridges Road or whatever, but Johnny and I opted to do Broken is the Word, and that was like, that went over well. People liked it, standing O or whatever. I think that got us thinking that, stuck in our minds that we could do our own stuff and have just a little bit more satisfaction out of that.
I remember a great story. Bob Dylan, I think it was the summer he graduated in '59, maybe the summer before, he got out to Fargo, North Dakota to perform with Bobby V, and he said his name was Elston Gunn and that he played piano. Well, they did a handful of gigs, but some of the gigs where they were performing didn't have a piano, so Elston Gunn, of course, Bob Dylan said, "That's okay, I'll just do hand claps."
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever
works.
moves you got to make a show, yeah.
We've got Chris Cunningham from the band Storyhill. They've got a great the Storyhill Fest coming up August 25th through 27th at Clearwater Camp. We're going to listen to one of their very first recordings called If I Could, and we'll have Chris on for the whole show. And if John gets back from elk hunting, whatever the hell he's doing, he can call and we'll have John as well. But here we go. If I Could by Storyhill.
You have the heaven in your eyes that I've been looking for. The fire that's in the sun is in our hearts. And with a stick I write your name on the shifting shore, and then you write mine next to yours. And if I could, I would write your name on every grain of sand on every shore. We slept our sleepless nights alone, wondering what it's all for, until we found each other here. Still we lie awake at night and we talk about the things that we would only talk about behind closed doors. And if I could, I would lie awake with you every night and all night evermore. And if I could, I would write your name on every grain of sand on every shore.
Did the day give way to the deafening dark? Did you fear you were alone? Did the rain turn to snow? Did the snow hide the only path you've ever known? Did you wonder who would stand up for you and lead you safely home? Could it be you were called for a time such as this? Could it be? Could it be? Could it be you were called to be hope for the hopeless, light for the darkness, love for the enemy?
Welcome back to the second set of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We just heard a song called Could It Be by the band Storyhill, my guest tonight on the show. And this was recorded at the Sacred Heart Music Center in Duluth, Minnesota by a great engineer and house sound man over there named Eric Swanson. Tell us a little bit about this recording, this song, and let's talk a little bit about Eric because he's so good.
Oh, my pleasure, yeah. Well, for one, we just love singing in that hall, as probably anyone would say. The natural acoustics, the reverb. I think Eric was saying the tail of the reverb is something like 5.5 or 6 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Just marble floors, 60-foot ceilings, and then you add in his incredibly great ears and gear. I mean, microphones from vintage Neumanns and just great setup. And I'm a studio engineer myself here in Bozeman, so I drool when I go visit Eric, and
he's got a great
bask in his and his whole years of experience is just so admirable. Plus his personality is so chill. And so when we were there, it was 2 summers ago, I want to say, so 2021, and we drove Johnny's brand new 50-year-old vintage Volkswagen bus of his
cool.
dreams, and found a campsite, and with the intention to go record 2 songs with Eric over the course of 2 days. We wanted to make sure and capture them live, and kind of for us as a duo, we really we delve deep into the nuances of our songs because it's just the 2 guitars and 2 voices. We maybe make it seem easy, but it's actually quite a bit of, repeating ourselves until we find how the song wants to express itself through us.
Sure.
Sounds a little esoteric, but yeah, and so there's a degree of sort of surrendering our pride and, kind of some humility in terms of respecting how a song wants to be treated. And Eric could understand that, so he was not in our faces at all about like, oh, that was a great take, or you guys should stop now, or anything. We just, he just kind of set up and stood like a sentinel, just on the wings, shepherding.
Well, he's such a professional, and he's so easy to work with. I'm going to tell you a quick story, Chris Cunningham. I've played Sacred Heart several times over the years. Just played there in May for the Dylan Fest. And when I walked in there several years ago, I was reminded I was in a wedding party there at sometime in the 70s. And I was talking to my sister about it. She goes, oh, do you remember when the bride would not come out of wherever the bride and the bridesmaid stayed because she didn't want to get married? It held up the proceedings by about 20 to 30 minutes. They finally did get married. They're divorced just a few years later, but it was a little uncomfortable for the groom and the congregants at that particular event. But it got better. Let me ask you this, Chris Cunningham. How do you figure out your guitar arrangements? Because you got 2 guitars. I imagine maybe one guy's capoing up and you're playing in different chord positions, or how do you figure that out?
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty rare that the 2 of us are on the same tuning or chord progression. It's pretty rare, and when it does happen, it's on purpose. Everything's on purpose. We spend quite a bit of time, looking for complementary, not keys, but capo settings, and then of course you play different chords because we want to try to. Our guitar work gets described as being pretty intricate, and and Johnny actually has a background in classical violin performance kind of stuff from St. Olaf College, there in the Minnesota, Northfield, and grew up playing violin. So I think maybe that plays into his subconscious in a way. A lot of times he will be able to come up with guitar parts that are just kind of irrepeatable for the average player, and for me, at least, I just don't know how he does it. And then, me too. I'll do some finger work that, it's kind of like if you're skiing, say, you know where you're going to get to, but you don't know exactly the path you're going to take. You kind of discover that going down the hill. And same with coming up with a final arrangement for one of our songs. A lot of times we sort of just launch out and try and just let ourselves weave around as much as needed until something lands, and then usually both of us will just kind of resonate with it and like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Let's do that again and get it into our memory and bones and stuff, and then after a while we have these guitar parts that sort of interweave, and and along with our voices and harmonies, that same thing. We kind of pick different notes, and it's sort of like Simon and Garfunkel, only maybe a little more artsy, although they're plenty artsy. But you're just looking for something that's going to sort of be different and unique. And
right.
Yeah, and so it's a lot of time and, repeating. And, honestly, we've discovered that a lot of our music and songs, they may be presentable at a certain point, and then we hit the stages, and playing live in front of an audience really does inform the way we respond to our own songs.
Oh, absolutely.
And, and so I think probably a lot of live performers experience that too, is, they take on a new life and dimension once you've been playing them out consistently over a period of, say, months or years even. And that's when you start to know that, that song is like, it's got a life of its own. It kind of stands on, we know how to do that one now,
Right. Well, it frustrates me over the years when I see a band with two guitar players and they're playing the same chords in the same position, and I just want to buy a capo and give it to them, because the beautiful thing for any guitar players out there would know, if you've got two guitar players and one guy's playing, let's say, first position in the first 3 to 5 frets, somebody else capos up another 5 to 12 frets, you get it. Two guitars can sound more like a piano at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of overtones and full range. And pianos are built that way, right? A lot of strings to hit, overtones. Yeah.
So, Chris,
I agree.
Cunningham, who are some of your favorite guitar players? Who's influenced you?
Okay. Well, have you heard of, by chance, he's a songwriter originally from the East Coast, singer-songwriter. One of my favorites that's sort of not super well-known, but definitely super respected and has a following. His name is Richard Shindell.
Oh, yeah, I'm very familiar with him.
Oh, okay. I think he's pretty amazing as far as being a one-man, with a guitar, one person with a guitar, and just the timbre and tone of his singing and the sort of, curiosity level of what he's singing about. I'm always drawn into the fact that he rarely sings from his own experience. He almost always takes on a character. Mm-hmm. It's fun for me to try to figure out, and it can be a character from, modern times to, other eras. And it's fun for me to, try to figure out who I am when I'm listening to that, who is this singer voice. And anyway, and then his guitar work can be pretty cool. I mean, it's nothing super flashy, but it's interesting enough to not only carry a tune, but to complement songs, and he can fill in. But I have, at the same time, as far as people with prowess that I admire, well, Martin Sexton is probably my hands-down favorite live solo guy.
He just played in Duluth, and I missed it. That one was completely off my radar. But yeah, I'm very familiar with Sexton. Great musician.
Yeah, he's a powerhouse.
So, who are some of your songwriting influences?
Yeah, I would have to start with, my early influences have always stuck around. for me, they just don't seem to go away. So Gordon Lightfoot and John Denver and, Joni Mitchell and that whole ilk from the 70s, the Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young, the Simon and Garfunkel again, they're just so steeped in me that I think they'll always be, because that's what was played on the record players at my parents' house all the time, and that's what I started learning to do. When on piano, I would cover their songs, just buy songbooks, and anyway, so I think that's basically me, the James Taylor, that sort of Indigo Girls, that kind of thing.
Because I'm a wealth of useless knowledge, but I've won hundreds of bets at bars because of it. John Denver actually spent some time in Edina. His God-given name was John Deutschendorf, and he wrote a song, very popular song, Annie song, from a woman. I don't know if they got married. Annie went to St. Olaf College.
Oh, wow, you won that bet, huh? That's interesting. I did not know that. That's really interesting and cool. Yeah, and I went to St. Olaf as well. I followed Johnny there a
Did
year
you
later.
ever know a professor there named Vern Fiata?
So I was there in 90 to 94, and so I'm not sure I knew that one.
He has a cabin right by us on our family cabin at Lake Vermilion, philosophy professor. First adult I knew with long hair in the 60s, really cool guy. We've got Chris Cunningham from the band Storyhill. Their show is big 3-day event, August 25 through 27th at Clearwater Camp, Storyhill Fest. We're going to have him on for one more segment on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the last set on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza, talking with my main man from Storyhill, Chris Cunningham. Chris, so how you guys have been together, 30 years?
Yeah, 30 plus. We celebrated our 30-year career anniversary 4 years ago, back in 2019. Our manager at the time coordinated a kind of a bus trip tour of Montana and some of the sites where a lot of the songs originated from. And we had people flying in from as far as Argentina to join us.
Wow.
In New York. And yeah, some of our fans have been around, and they're thanks to the internet and other things, they kind of are fiercely loyal.
Well, that's...
It's been a long career with lots of sort of chapters to it.
Well, I have to throw in here today is the 48th anniversary of my band Cats Under the Stars. We haven't played in a couple of years. We're getting ready to fire something up sooner than later. But so I credit anybody that's been in the music business, even if they've taken time off, for having a career as long as Storyhill has. How many records have you guys put out?
That's awesome. Well, we've done over a dozen independent releases. We were also on Red House Records for a stretch and did 2 records for Red House Records, or with them while they were still, standing, before they got bought out by Compass. But yeah, and we got to work with, we tapped Dan Wilson. I'm sure that's a pretty well-known name. He produced those 2 records. Mm-hmm. And then we've done some more independent releases since.
So now with Compass buying the Red House catalog, do you have any control over those 2 records, or do you see any money from them, or did you get kicked to the curb? Pardon my French.
I get it. It's the kind of scenario right now where when we want records, we just buy more from them. they own the licenses at this point. A lot of former Red House artists have managed to, get their rights back so they can kind of be free of that. And it's been kind of on our minds to do that too, because those two records, one of them is called Storyhill, and it's an eponymous record that we made with Dan Wilson, produced in his attic, actually, his ballroom in Minneapolis. And it's a favorite record with a lot of our favorite songs. So we'd like to get that one back, and Shade of the Trees is the other one. So yeah, it's a process.
I remember
like
years.
The music business.
As the great alto sax bebop player Eddie Berger, who was just a wonderful musician, used to refer to the music business as the shoe biz. He really wasn't that far off the track. For any young musicians out there, Chris could tell you, and Paul Metsa could tell you. I remember I had lunch with Bob Mould after he left Husker Du and was started on his own, which become a phenomenal solo career. He told me, whatever you do, remember to hang on to your master recordings. Have you been able to do that with the exception of these Red House records? I imagine so, but maybe not. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that journey with Storyhill.
Yeah, I actually have a storage unit, right, with our masters from the early years, including, 2-inch tape.
Right.
And half-inch and all that. So, yes, we have, and I think we did our Clearing record is called Clearing. At another Minneapolis studio, it used to be, I think it was called Blackberry Way, or...
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
Then Alex Awana bought it. He was a friend of ours from St. Louis, and he called it City Cabin. And he was a great engineer, and still is. Anyway, yeah, we've got all our masters. Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, the great jazz singer Mel Torme, who is referred to as the Velvet Fog, wrote a book, and he titled it "It Wasn't All Velvet." So let's talk, Chris Cunningham, a little bit about what were the tough times for Storyhill over the years.
Okay. Well, certainly, hitting the road full time in our 20s and post-college, this would be the mid-'90s, was, the right thing to do, and it was very exciting for quite a while. But it did, that life of constant life of being on the road kind of wore me out. And I started to miss being in one place, miss having friends, that kind of thing. I started to yearn for community and like an actual, girlfriend situation, that kind of thing. So living out of the suitcase and all that, and just a different town every night, that got wearisome, and we took a break. Well, we called it quits, or so we thought.
Right.
And
hey, man, there's no money in this business until the reunion tour.
Yeah, that's right. Well, right, because then fast forward, we even though Johnny and I lived in separate states, I landed back in Montana, and he was raising his family and doing a lot of production work in indie rock stuff in the Twin Cities. So for years, we made it work kind of increasingly over time from separate states. Just a lot of money went to travel, planes and stuff, but flights. But yeah, I mean, it's never been velvet. It's not always been all velvet for sure.
Yeah.
What the velvet for us is, once we hit the stage, everything happens for us. It's just so natural and magical.
And that's why you do it.
Yeah, and just to see the light in people's eyes, when they hear the music, and just to feel that music, it's really powerful. And it's okay to take a break from it now and again. I mean, especially kind of like those in-between times when you're just, slogging away at strategy and trying to coordinate everybody's schedules and stuff. I have a kid
and
now.
You both have families now and kids, right?
Well, yes. I'm in the midst of it. My son is just a new, fresh teen, and it's really important for me to be present, and as available as I can for my kid and family, my wife, and my parents actually too, as they age. Things like that. Swirl around in terms of priorities, and so right now, that's kind of a big thing for me is stability, and the music that I've made with Johnny is always going to be special, and it's okay. We're actually officially, this is our last performance for the foreseeable future, Storyhill Fest, actually. So we're sort of celebrating, great music with great community in the, on a professional stage and doing this thing for a few days, and then, we're going to just exhale for a while, hit the pause button, and each kind of do our own things for a while. So, yeah.
So before we forget, what's the Storyhill website, and can people purchase tickets for the event on August 25 through 27, Storyhill Fest? Give us that info.
They sure can. It's, Storyhill.com is the main website, and StoryhillFest.com gets you to the festival. There's links for everything. And tickets, there's kind of a lot of options. You can come for the whole thing or just day passes. You can stay on site, various kind of lodging and camping opportunities. Everything from bring your own tent or trailer, or stay at the luxury lodge just down the road, There's that.
Cool.
Rutgers Lodge, yeah. And plenty of people opt for that. Just a little spendier. But it's really well put together festival, time tested, and this year is our first time we're going to stream the whole thing. So for $25 ticket for the weekend, I think, per household, we'll have Chris Furmeyer formerly of Red House Record, who runs sound at...
say hi to Chris for me. I love that guy.
Yeah, me too. Always have. And he just streamed our show at the Cedar in May and kind of got the bugs or the kinks worked out. So he'll be on site to stream both Friday, all the artists, and Saturday, all the artists. It doesn't stream the workshops and the campfires at night. The campfire is like a whole nother portion. It's just, it goes all into the night. People passing the guitar around. It's really fun. So we're gonna have a couple options for people this year.
It sounds like a great time. We got about a minute left before we're going to listen to one of your latest songs, Blazing Out of Sight. But tell us in a minute or so, Chris Cunningham from Storyhill, what have been some of the highlights for your band over the years?
Well, I have to say I really loved floating around on the big boat in the Caribbean, playing music with Storyhill for the Prairie Hum Companion cruises back when those were hip. We did 2 cruises. It was just so much fun to see, the Caribbean, and another time go down the St. Lawrence. And I just love, the oceans. That was a highlight. We also have had some fun at festivals, like the Kerrville Folk Festival.
Cool.
In the Falcon Ridge out east. Career highlights. But honestly, it's just like, it feels like everywhere we go, there's some little highlight. I know that sounds kind of easy to say, but we just did a kind of a backyard, actually, in a park, quote-unquote, house concert with some friends in kind of near Rochester. And, like, all these friends and neighbors show up and bring their own beverages and their lawn chairs and stuff, and you can just see, you're watching the skies and the weather and stuff, and you're outside, and playing music. It can't get any better than that.
There's nothing better than playing music outside in the summertime in Minnesota. Chris Cunningham, this is phenomenal. Tell Hermanson, give him a little guff for not taking time on a bison hunting to join us. And we want to give Marcus Johnson a heads up for hipping me to this show. Congratulations on over 30 years of playing together, and best of luck on your upcoming festival. And we're going to go out listening to Blazing Out of Sight. But Chris, it's been a pleasure talking to you tonight.
Oh, right back at you, Paul. It's been a pleasure, and thank you so much.
All right, more info at Storyhill.com. Thanks for listening. Chris, have a great night. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
It's in the color of the trees on the highway, brilliant with dying. It's in the dust we're breathing these days, in your whispers and sighing. It's in the longer shadows stretching into the falling night. It's in the deep red sun that's setting before we're ready, blazing out of sight. In the spring when the ice was melted and the river ran high, we went wading, soon we were swimming, took an hour to dry, made a fire and lay down beside it, saw a meteor that night, turned the whole valley to daylight, then it was gone, blazing out of sight. I just stood there watching the phone ring.
Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. The show is produced by Patrick Lilia and Paul Metza. We'd like to thank our guest, Chris Cunningham from Storyhill. My book, Alphabet Jazz, is available on Amazon. The new book coming out, Blood in the Tracks, the Minnesota musicians behind Dylan's masterpiece, is out September 12th by the University of Minnesota Press. We'll be doing a book release in Minneapolis soon. We'll keep you posted on that. Follow me at paulmetza.com. And like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.